Are you thinking of moving to Florida and wondering what your cost of living will be? Well, that's what we're going to talk about today, so stay tuned. Hey everyone, this is Courtney Changus with Charles Ruttenberg Realty here in Lakewood Ranch, Florida. When people are moving to a new state, one of the terms that gets thrown around a lot is cost of living and how that compares to where you currently live versus where you're planning to move. Obviously, cost of living is a relative thing, so if you live in a very expensive part of the country, moving to Florida might seem a lot cheaper. If you live somewhere where property values are lower, taxes are low or non-existent, then moving to Florida might be on the same par or it might be more expensive. So it all kind of depends on what you're comparing it to, but it is an important thing to research. For example, we moved from Connecticut originally, and taxes in Connecticut are pretty high. So with the combined lower property taxes and the lack of state taxes that they take out of your income, we found a much better quality of life in Florida, and our cost of living was actually lower. Today we're going to share some quick tips on how to figure out what the cost of living might be in Florida depending on where you're moving from, and just some ways that you can research that topic before diving into making the move. One of the most important determinations you need to make before moving to a specific city or town is how much it will cost to live there. So when we talk about cost of living, we're talking about the amount of money you will need to make in order to sustain the lifestyle that you like in this new place. This could include the prices of goods and services, taxes, real estate. All of those things factor into whether or not it's affordable to live in that area. And again, affordable is a relative term, but that's kind of how you figure out whether the cost of living in a certain spot will work for you. There's also some online tricks on the wonderful internet, my go-to source of all information initially. And there's ways that you can type in where you currently live, where you're moving to, what the cost of living might be. You can look up tax records, those are all public, so that's another piece of information that might be helpful. The only time it's difficult to calculate is if you plan on buying a new construction home, because those taxes are not accurate until the home has already been built and owned by a homeowner for over a year. So that's kind of a tricky area, but there's always ways to look up that information to get a more accurate big picture. The largest factors that go into considering a cost of living would be the housing cost. And that could include HOA fees, upgrades to the home, maintenance to the outside, everything that goes into home ownership. Transportation, if you need to take public transportation to get to work, or the cost of gas if you're commuting, which in current situations, most of us are working from home, so maybe that's not as big a factor right now. Food, so how much the groceries cost, food to purchase, food if you're going out to eat, things like that, taxes on purchases, and entertainment, so things that you're paying for to just enjoy life. Those four categories go into the cost of living, as well as some other things that are smaller, but those are the biggest four factors. You might have seen commercials on TV for this website called NerdWallet. They have a lot of financial information. They'll help people with credit cards, credit scores, things like that, but they also have a cost of living calculator on their website. So that's what I'm going to show you, just to give you kind of an idea of one of the resources you can use to calculate this difference in cost of living versus where you live now. So as a quick example, if you currently live in San Francisco, California, and you want to move to Tampa, Florida, which is the closest city I could find to Sarasota in this particular calculator, and you currently make $70,000 as your pre-tax household income, to maintain that standard of living in Tampa, you would only need to earn $31,729 a year. The cost of living is 55% lower in Tampa compared to San Francisco. And then it breaks that down further. So housing costs, a two-bedroom apartment rent in San Francisco averages about $4,000 a month. In Tampa, it's only $1,000. An average home price for a 3-bed, 2-bath home in San Francisco is $1.2 million, and in Tampa, it's $260,000. So huge differences. Again, those are average costs for a larger metro area, so it's not necessarily a specific neighborhood, but it gives you a general understanding. Transportation costs are also a lot lower. Gas in San Francisco is $3.82 a gallon, and in Tampa it's only $2.50. Food costs are 18% lower, entertainment costs are 30% lower, and even healthcare is lower in Florida. So that type of move would certainly give you a lot of money to work with because your cost of living is a lot lower in Florida. Now, just to be fair, we'll do another comparison. If you currently live in Savannah, Georgia, and you want to move to Tampa, Florida, and you currently have a pre-tax household income of $70,000 a year, to maintain your standard of living in Florida, you would need to bump that up to about $72,200 a year. So the cost of living in Tampa is about 3% higher. However, housing costs are 16% higher. So that is something to consider. If you have a really big house in Savannah, that same amount of money will probably get you a smaller house in the Tampa area of Florida. So you have to weigh all those options, and this gives you a good picture of what those might be. There is another cost of living tool to use online that I'm going to show you called SmartAsset, and this one is a little more detailed. It allows you to choose more specific cities or counties in Florida, as well as how many people are in your household, and then gives you a breakdown of the tax cost differential, housing, food, and also shows some information on mortgage rates based on the housing prices in the different areas you're looking. So let's take a look at this one just so you have some other options to follow up on your research. So if I use a similar location and I'm moving from San Francisco, California, and my new location will be Sarasota, Florida. I'm going to use something a little closer to where we actually are because this one lets you type in whichever city you choose. So there's more options. You can get a more exact location. So we'll do Sarasota, Florida, and we'll do the same household income, $70,000 a year. And this time we get to choose how many adults and also how many children. So we'll do no children this time, and then you can see they give you a few different categories to show the cost difference between Sarasota and San Francisco. So it's the same percentage overall, more or less. They give you a food cost. The two little graphs give you a visual representation, and then down below they show you some mortgage rates based on the home prices and things that you can get, and then this breaks down what the cost of living calculator covers. So just some more information on all of the factors that they pull into this comparison and how that is calculated. Now if I want to do the same calculator with Savannah, Georgia, moving to Sarasota just to see the difference. Sarasota is actually still 1% lower, and I changed this to having one child in the house, and now it's 4% higher. So it just depends on what you put in and how it all factors together, and you can click around to see the differences and just play with the areas that you're planning to move to and from to get a better idea of the cost of living for the area you choose. I hope those resources are helpful for you when you are looking into finding out the cost of living difference between where you currently live and where you're looking to move in Florida. If you have additional questions on anything, please leave me a comment or send me an email. I'm happy to help. And if you happen to be looking in the Lakewood Ranch area, make sure you follow us on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and get in touch with us because we would love to help you find your dream home. Again, I'm Courtney Chankis with Charles Ruttenberg Realty here in Lakewood Ranch, Florida. Thanks for tuning in.